Out of the two new seasonal units, in my opinion, Luck is the better of the two. I really, really like this Luck. I think he is actually fairly good, and I'm glad they did him some justice, because I feel like they didn't quite do Magna justice on the last season, but this Luck, I think he really helps the blue team kind of come back into the meta a little bit, kind of perform a little bit better, especially when you pair this Luck with the season 3 Charlotte. She has extend counterattack duration, he has extend counterattack duration. Those two together are just insanely good. So today we're going to talk about what skills you want to upgrade first on him, what skill cards or skill pages you want to equip on him, what gear you want to run on him, whether or not you should enhance him, what talents you want to run on his talent tree, and then of course what teams he's going to fit well on for both PvE and PvP. So starting with his passive, you get this for getting him just to LR status. If counterattack is present on self, attacks after granting an increased damage dealt up 10%. That is really good, because hopefully you're going to have counterattack on him quite a bit. And then for his skill 1, it is a single target attack. It is called Lightning Edge, and it inflicts continuous electrocute damage on an enemy for 2 turns. Attacks after inflicting barrier removal on an enemy. This is really good because you're getting rid of barriers on your skill 1. That is consistent. You can always remove barriers. That is insanely good. And then the electrocute is really good too. So this Luck, if you don't know, you're actually going to be building more for the idea of the electrocute with that in mind than anything else, because he's not going to do the most damage on his actual attacks, but the electrocute damage goes so crazy. His skill 2 is an AoE attack. This is a skill I really like for him. It's called Spark, and if counterattack is not present on an ally, grants them counterattack for 1 turn, which is nice. And then this is the good part though, if counterattack is present on an ally, grants them extended counterattack duration by 1 turn. I really like this, especially when paired with, like I was saying, season 3 Charlotte. It works pretty well. And then this part comes from a skill card. I highly recommend, if you can get a skill card, get it, because it's almost essential to run his skill card on this character. But it inflicts continuous electrocute damage on an enemy for 2 turns, AoE. So this guarantees you electrocute on every enemy on the enemy team, especially when you're in PvP, and you only get this if you have a skill card equipped. So definitely equip that if you can. It's really good. And then his special skill is called Lightning Stomp. It is another single target attack. This is going to be his biggest damage attack. Inflicts continuous electrocute once again on the enemy for 2 turns. So every single skill inflicts electrocute, which is insane. Upon attacking, deals 40% of attack and magic attack as extra damage. So you can build him either way. You can build him for attack or for magic attack. Personally, I think I'm going to build him for magic attack more when I get the chance, based on the instance of counterattacks present on all allies. So if you have a bunch of stacks or a bunch of if you have counterattack on all your allies, you're going to be doing more damage. That's what I meant to say. And then grants an increased speed level 1 buff for 1 turn as well, giving him his turns back faster after you use his special. So that is really good. And then his combo skill, if an enemy is afflicted with continuous damage, attacks after granting a 30% increased damage dealt buff, which is pretty easy to achieve considering all his other skills put electrocute on the enemy. Now, in terms of upgrade priority, I would go for the special skill first because it is going to do your most damage. Then I would go for the skill 2 because it is an AoE, it applies electrocute, and you're probably going to be using this quite a bit or as frequently as you can. It's going to have the second most damage for you. And then I would do your skill 1. Your skill 1 is nice, but it's just not going to do as much damage as the other 2 skills. So you go special skill, secondary skill, and then your first skill in terms of upgrade priority. Now, I really do like this skill 2, so there is an argument to be made potentially to upgrade skill 2 before you do your special skill, but I'll leave that up to you. Now, in terms of skill pages, like I said, because of the effect that it gives the electrocute on skill 2, which is an AoE, it's almost essential that you run this. Like, this is the best by far in every way skill card you can equip to this character. It also, if counterattack is present on self, there is a 55% chance to attack after granting a 20% increased all attack buff. That is really good, and that is without any dupes. Okay, now with all the dupes, right, it'll increase your chances of activating it and increase your overall attack. So you can see right here how much it increases it by. It'll increase your activation rate to pretty much 100%, and then it increases your attack rate to 40%. So that's pretty dang good if you are able to get that fully duped out. But like I said, his skill card is the absolute best one you can equip. I don't really recommend any others over this skill card, simply because of the effect it gives on skill 2. But if you don't have this and you have to run another one, I will show you guys 2 other options. So option 1, and this is similar to the Yami build guide I did, you could run Pride of the Wizard King, which is Julius's skill page. A lot of people have this one duped out, so I like to show it. It gains 10 to 25% increased all attack. That would be good for luck, right? But once again, you're not going to have the electrocute procs on your skill 2. Another option you can run that pretty much everybody has is Breath of Darkness. This is mostly a free-to-play skill page that you can get. It applies 10 to 20% increased all attack to yourself, just depending on how far you have it upgraded. So this is also going to be really good for luck because it increases his attack. So basically any skill page that increases attack or increases damage dealt will work okay. Like you could technically try to run like Leopold's or Fuegoleon's, but they require you to have a certain amount of health to increase your damage. So they're not the greatest. Okay, so like these are kind of the 2 I'd run besides Luck's skill page over any other. Now, in terms of gear for luck, these are the 3 gear sets I would go for. I would go for an attack set, I would go for a half defense set, and I would go for a half mobility set. Now, it is important to actually give this luck defense if you can, because he is a counterattack character and you want him to survive. He's not going to have barriers, he's not going to have as much healing as like other teams might have, right? And especially if you're taking on Black Asta, he is actually pretty good because he's a blue type character, but if Black Asta gets anti-magic, even the defense, you're dead. So as much defense as possible on this character is a good thing, but at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice your attack stats for defense, so you're going to just have to go for like a half defense set, and then I would go for like an extra defense piece here, and maybe a defense piece on like your mobility set or something like that. So I'd probably do like 2 defense pieces on him, and then the rest of them being attack or magic attack. Now, personally, I would prefer to build him towards magic attack, and so that's kind of what I have here, but I do have a mixture of attack and magic attack, literally because I didn't have all the gear pieces I needed to fully build this guy the way I wanted to yet. So you'll see that I have magic attack here for the attack set, magic attack on the attack set as my main stat, and then down here I have attack. I need to get this switched out to a magic attack piece eventually, which I will do. And then I have magic attack here. I need to get a LR version of magic attack. I need magic attack here, and I do have magic attack there. So I need to switch a few pieces, but ideally I'm going to build mine all towards magic attack in the end as the main stat. Now, in terms of substats, I mean, you could go for crit rate or damage, but I wouldn't really recommend it. What I would go for more is kind of like what you see right here. If you have a magic attack piece of gear, I would go for substats of attack and magic attack, like get as many attack and magic attack substats as you can on these gears to just increase the amount of damage that his electrocute is going to do, because like I said, you are building more towards the electrocute damage than you are building towards his actual skill damage. So for the substats, go for as much attack and magic attack as you can to just increase his overall electrocute damage, and maybe if you can, throw in some like damage resist or defense. Those are probably the main substats I would go for on Luck's gear. Substats do make a big difference at this point in the game, so make sure you guys are getting your gear upgraded to +12 and rerolling your substats as soon as you can. So in this particular case, this character, crit rate, crit damage don't really matter as much, and I know that's uncommon for attack type characters, and a lot of people like to run that. Now, in terms of enhancement, what should you be doing? Should you just be getting 1 copy? Should you be getting 2? Should you be trying to fully dupe him? Well, I will say right off the bat, even though I don't have him duped at all, I do think this is a character, if you are a whale, that's like the only way you're going to do this, you want to max dupe him. He's really good if you max dupe him. Now, if you are not a whale, getting him to 2 dupes is optimal, and if you're free to play, I guess you just have to live with 1 copy. Personally, I would like to get him to 2 copies, so I might summon a little bit more on this banner, but it's really hard to choose to do that, especially when Mereoleona comes out in the same season, so just keep that in mind. If you want to max dupe Mereoleona, you might have to give a little bit on this, but if you can swing it, I do recommend getting him to 2 dupes. The reason being is because every battle turn, if counterattack is present on self, grants a 70% reduced damage taken buff for 2 turns. So that means at the start of battle, if you give him counterattack, then and it comes to his turn, he will get a 70% reduced damage taken buff for 2 turns after that. That is really, really, really good. So like I said, defense and damage reduction, that's really good. He's not going to be as good as a counterattack character if he doesn't have this extra damage reduction. He's going to be able to die a lot quicker. So it's almost essential to get him to like 2 dupes if you can. Now 5 dupes gets even better. It totally changes the way this character plays because, and this is why you would want to upgrade his special skill first, for sure if you had him fully duped. Upon attacking an enemy who is taking continuous electrocute damage, grant self an SP +8, right? That's going to definitely change the way he's played because basically you're going to have an ultimate every other turn. which is insane. That's really, really good. And he gets extra crit damage when you get him to 5 dupes. So this luck fully enhanced, fully duped out, a very, very good character if you can swing it. Now, in terms of talents, you could literally go for like almost anything on this luck. You could go for magic attack and stacking crit rate like I've gone for here. You could go for attack and stacking crit rate. You could go for attack and extra damage dealt. It's really up to you. Okay, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for the boss damage unless you're taking on a boss. I wouldn't necessarily recommend crit damage once again because you're not building towards crit. So any of these 4 right here you can go for. In my case, I'm going for magic attack, a magic attack build on him eventually. So that means I'm going for magic attack and stacking crit rate. Now for the defense, I'm going for plus 20% defense, and I'm going for defense, stacking, and crit resist stacking just to give him more survivability. I do think that is best for this luck. And then for the support tree, I would go for the damage resist, and I would actually go for the skill 2, because if you have a skill page, once again, that guaranteed electrocute on all enemies, once again, we're building towards electrocute damage is our goal with this build. I would go for skill 2 cooldown just for another chance to have an AoE skill 2 that stacks more electrocutes. That's insanely, insanely good. So that's kind of what I go for on his talent build. Now let's talk about the teams you can run this guy on. So the first potential PvP team that I really like is this team right here. So you have William for buffing. You could buff luck. You have him for speed as well. You have Charlotte for the counterattack. You have him for the counterattack. You have her for the damage reduction. These characters right here, very good team, and it works fairly well against Black Asta, who is right now currently the meta. Like specifically, this team is good against Black Asta teams. It's really good against the mono red team, and it's definitely a viable, I would say viable option in PvP. Like it's good. Luck is very good on this team. Another option you can run would be something like this. It's going to be a little bit harder, but most people do have Julius like max duped, and most people probably have this Charmy, especially with the rerun banner having just rerun. So the idea behind this team is you have some damage reduction with Charlotte because she gives total defense and stuff like that. You have the counterattacks, you have the damage reduction if you have them at 2 dupes, you have healing, you have extra defense from her when you use her ultimate. So you have quite a bit of damage reduction and defense and stuff like that from these characters. And then you also are now running 2 attackers that can do pretty good damage, and you have an extra life with Julius. And so they're going to have to choose who to kill, and they also have to be scared to attack you because whoever they attack is going to be able to counterattack, and a counterattacking Julius can be very scary. So this is another potential mono blue team you could run in PvP. And then this last team is either a PvP or PvE team. This one is not a mono blue team. So the idea behind this team is that for like PvE, you would be buffing attack and stuff like that with William's speed. You would also be buffing attack and defense with her. You'd also be giving counterattack with these two and extending counterattack. So that way, if Asta is into anti-magic in like a hard PvE stage, then he will be able to counterattack as well and potentially get you those hits you want. Now, PvE, I gotta be honest, this luck isn't going to be all that useful. I feel like there's going to be better choices for like nuking characters and stuff like that in PvE when it comes to raids and whatnot, and he isn't going to be the best like AoE attacker. So as far as PvE goes, he's like not the craziest PvE character, but when it comes to PvP, this team right here could definitely work. And so it's basically the same thing as the mono blue teams, where you're going to have the counterattacks, the damage reduction, all that stuff, except for the idea here is if all 3 of these characters die, Black Asta is still going to be alive, and he'll kind of be your last resort in PvP. So this is definitely another potential PvP option team that you could run. And that is it for Luck's build guide. If you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.